What's up, everybody? It's Michael or Penguinos007 here today for another video. I'm here today with my good old buddy.
Nither 123.
And we're here today for How to Counter Trolldier, Part 3 of 3 by Soundsmith. You know the drill. Watch the original video. Leave a comment down below if you want us to react to anything. My nose is stuffy.
Boy.
And we are just gonna go. Click stepper, click it, click it.
Alright, final part. Just a quick reminder that this is part of a mini-series, so I'd recommend you go and watch the other ones first. At this point, we've talked over most of the major points. We've covered Punish Game and Neutral Game, so this episode is mostly going to be dedicated to tying up any loose ends and talking about any strange or special things that can change how you would approach a fight with a Trolldier. After that, we'll talk about some practical examples, which basically just takes all the previous stuff that I talked about and puts it all together. Alright, intro's over, and let's just jump into it. You remember how I talked about wildcards last episode when I was covering movement and how sometimes doing dumb shit just might work because of how unexpected it is? Well, Trolldiers can do that too, and you've got to keep an eye out or else you'll get a crit shovel upside the head. I'd say that against Trolldier specifically, it's even more important.
We've seen that damn clip like 3 times every video.
Look.
And so remember, since they're already memeing just by playing Trolldier, meaning that they would be more likely to go for something stupid in the first place. I'm going to be talking about 3 of the most common special things that a Trolldier can do and how to counter them, starting with a little thing called a B-hop.
B-hop!
B-hopping, also known as bunny hopping or bounce hopping, is a tech where you can trick the game into thinking you're still blast jumping after you've already hit the ground. If you input jump when you're within a few hammer units of the floor, or just as you hit the ground, you can jump again without actually being registered as grounded. This means that you could theoretically get a garden crit after landing, which lets you reach areas that would be impossible to land a garden in otherwise. I'm not 100% on the technical stuff behind it, but it's very, very powerful if it's practiced to consistency. If I'm being honest, the stuff that you can pull off with this is pretty stupid.
When changed the map, because like it was such a maze. I literally ran circles and circles, and I just fucking hated it. I got so mad.
What?
So
What? B-hopping.
Well,
it's a frame perfect thing, but you can just continue to do it.
That's so bullshit!
Extremely difficult to pull off consistently. You basically need to be frame perfect for each individual hop. Now, of course, if you want to be pedantic, TF2 doesn't measure time in frames, it measures it in ticks, but most TF2 servers run at 66 ticks per second, so if you're doing 60 frames per second, it's basically being frame perfect. It's close enough. Suffice to say, this shit's pretty hard to pull off. If you've practiced it enough, or if you've played other Source Engine games like Counter-Strike, or if you bind your scroll wheel to jump to fire off a bunch of inputs at once, you might find it a little bit easier to do it, but the reason I'm bringing up its difficulty for most people is to make the point that not very many Trolldiers are going to use this. But honestly, that's exactly what makes it so powerful in my opinion. Because it's somewhat rare to see, not very many people will expect it. If I had a nickel for every time I got a garden because someone saw me land and didn't realize I could B-hop, well, I'll just let this clip speak for itself.
He's playing...
キラークイーンはすでにドアノブに触っている。
So getting back on track, how do you counter a B-hopping Trolldier? Well, first things first, keep your distance. I would say that this is roughly similar to fighting a Girardi Bushwhacker sniper, except they don't have a sniper rifle. If you get within melee range, you're screwed, but they're pretty powerless outside of that. The next thing to consider is that he's going to be much slower than he normally would if he was jumping at you. B-hopping does let you move faster than your base class walking speed, but TF2 has a cap on how fast you can go with it, unlike some other Source Engine games. And since he's moving way slower, he'll be a much easier target to hit, so you should absolutely take advantage of that. In addition, the knockback that you'd be dealing to them while shooting them could throw them around enough to make them miss the B-hop. Remember, the timing is very specific, and any little bit of knockback could make a huge difference. And once they miss the B-hop, they either have to run away or commit to another garden attempt, both of which would probably take too long. Most classes deal enough burst damage so that you could finish them off. And finally, I'd like to talk about how you can tell if a B-hop was successful or not, which is incredibly important for knowing where you should position yourself. If they're using the rocket jumper, it'll make that whooshing sound for as long as they're in an explosive jumping state, and that includes when B-hopping. So as long as you hear that whooshing noise, the shovel is still active and ready to crit you.
I don't care about that. They're buying you shit.
Now, Valve did recently lower the volume of the sound, so it's a little bit harder to tell, but it's still audible if you're listening for it. Here's an example from an actual game. This guy b-hops in, but he pulls away at the last second. I think it's because he realizes I was just sticking around as heavy, but that's not the important part. The important part is that you can hear that his initial b-hop was successful. Listen.
Yep.
So yeah, to sum it all up,
If he wasn't
respect
heavy,
the
he'd
b-hop
be
when it comes to distance, but also just shoot him in the goddamn face.
Earth,
Shoot.
1985.
Edge bugging?
Okay, edge bugging is an even rarer thing to see than b-hopping, and honestly, it's far less useful, so I'm going to be spending significantly less time on it. When you're moving forward and you land on the last few hammer units of a corner, this happens. This is also an incredibly difficult thing to land consistently, and I'm gonna be honest, 99% of the time that you see it outside of a jump map, it will be an accident. It can let Trolldiers squeeze a tad more distance out of their jump, and it does let you retain your blast jumping state, so it might get you killed every once in a while, but I'm gonna be honest, most of the time that I end up edge bugging, it's because I tried to man tread somebody and I missed the mark.
Is it random?
What?
Is it random yet?
It's the tangent line.
Shut up.
It's a tangent line!
Tangent line.
You don't even know what a tangent line is, son!
To counter it, you just have to be wary of corners that are parallel to the ground, and keep in mind that most Trolldiers will be caught off guard if they edge bug. Because of this, they usually pause to take in what the fuck just happened, and you can take advantage of that pause to get a full punish in.
Short
The
hop.
last strange thing that I'd like to talk about is something that's significantly easier to pull off, so you'll probably be seeing it more than the other two. And that's these tiny little jumps. I call them short hops because I like to play children's party games in my spare time. I would say that these are what you have to watch out for the most, honestly. Lots of newer Trolldiers try to do these and fail, so a lot of people don't respect just how dangerous they can be. But if a Trolldier jumps in and misses, or tries to b-hop and sees you back up, then they can absolutely follow up with one of these, and if they're good at it, it'll insta-kill you just as fast as any other type of guard. These are also really common to see when people overextend when they're tunneling the Trolldier. You can think of them like trick stabs, but with a shovel. So just like trick stabs, the best counter to short hops is
Mr.
to
Blue
just
Sky has
be
added
aware
you
of
to
them.
the friends
Place your
list.
focus on unpredictable movement before and while they're jumping. Since they have less time to strafe, they're gonna jump based more on prediction than they are on reaction. Because of this, jukes and baits are extra helpful here. Once they miss, or run out of rockets, or whatever, punish to the best of your ability, but keep in mind that if they know how, they can still b-hop afterwards. Next, I'm going to tie up any loose ends and talk about any other strange
Man
counters
treads,
that
man
there might
treads.
be to Trolldier. First, let's start with the obvious one, awareness. I'm going to be honest, half the gardens that I land I'm able to get because the person I'm going for didn't even see me. There are a lot of short hops that I do that are just like, okay, let's go get this guy over here, and okay, shit, he didn't see me, alright, cool, yeah, that works.
Yep.
Seriously, if these
And nothing of value was lost.
people noticed me, the chances of me getting a garden would drastically drop. When fighting a Trolldier, it's important to have good awareness and listen for any sound cues that might indicate that he's jumping at you. Notably, the jumper sound and the whooshing sound. Just keep your eyes and ears peeled, you'll be fine. Next, let's talk about how small a Trollder's clip is. This dude only has 4 rockets. That's honestly not that much. To jump at you, he needs to spend a minimum of 1, leaving him with only 3 more to try to short hop or escape. The time when a Trolldier is most vulnerable is when they're out of rocket jumper ammo. Unless he's using a damage dealing secondary, he's got nothing to fight you with other than a direct downgrade to the stock shovel. Most of the time, Trolldiers will noticeably pause and look around when they're out of ammo. This is them looking for an escape route. This is the best time for you to punish. Learn to recognize that pause and act on it. Next up, intimidation and mind games. If you manage to do something impressive against a Trolldier, like, say, land a cool air shot or counter garden them or something like that, it does have an effect on them. Usually it'll just make them go, oh shit, and be more careful when approaching you. This also makes them a tad more predictable, since they won't be going for those wild spur-of-the-moment jumps as frequently. Going for style and doing flashy shit, in this case, can actually help you. And finally, if you just really don't feel like fighting a Trolldier because you find it annoying or tedious or whatever, the last tip I have for you is to just be friendly towards them. Trolldiers, for the most part, are already memeing and doing silly shit, so they'd probably be more receptive to you offering a truce than other players would. Like, you could just walk underneath him and he'd probably go, oh shit, this guy could probably kick my ass. Oh god, he's playing sniper. He's insta-kill me.
Look at me, dog.
You know what? I really don't feel like fighting this guy. I'm just gonna leave him alone, and he'll leave me alone, and that way we both get to go do our own shit. It's not exactly a tip on directly countering Trolldier, but it's absolutely useful if you just really want him off your back.
It's just a sniper.
So I'm going to have to start this section with a little bit of a disclaimer and a correction from earlier in the series. I previously referred to this next section as option select, but as it turns out, that doesn't mean what I thought it meant. Originally, I thought it just meant covering your bases and selecting the best option or set of actions to approach a fight. But as it turns out, option select actually refers to an input that covers multiple options and lets the game engine decide which one would be best. That's something that shows up in fighting games a lot, but not so much in TF2, so whoops. Instead, I'm just going to be calling this section practical examples and giving you all a little bit of practice on taking in information and picking the best option for a specific Trolldier fight. So first things first, it's important to observe a Trolldier before he jumps at you so that you don't have to take in all this information in an instant. I would place the highest priority on figuring out 3 things. What secondary he's using, how many rockets he has in his clip, and how good he is at rocket jumping. I call these the big 3 because they're the 3 most valuable pieces of information that you can get about a Trolldier. Knowing them will help you immensely.
Base jumper, the parachute, jumper gardener.
At play. Jump post that's gone or deployed at apex of jump. 2 rockets. He only has 2 rockets max. Can airstrafe. He'll likely follow a juke since he's wearing base jumble. He knows how to airstrafe. Okay. Focus on hitting your shots and knock him back and force a whiff.
When you're fighting him. That third one, though, the one about rocket jumping, has a number of different things involved in it, so I'm gonna go a little bit
Angus
deeper
beef, an average
First of all,
duck.
if he jumps like this, you've got nothing to worry about. You can see this guy turning his view but not strafing, which means that he's holding W while he's in the air, and that's the biggest rocket jumping no-no on the planet. Also note that he's not crouching mid-jump, which means it's gonna be significantly harder for him to even get a garden in the first place. Seeing this is basically a good indicator that you're probably gonna be fine. Secondly, try to figure out if he knows how to b-hop. This is one that you'll only really know if you see him attempt one, but once that happens, you'll know for the rest of the match. And finally, try to gauge his ability to do larger multi-rocket jumps like this one. It'll affect where you want to position yourself, and it'll often save you from getting garden before you even interact. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at some examples of fights that you might run into in a real game. Example 1. Take a look at this Trolldier. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to observe, and then the interaction will start. And stop. So, what do you think the best play in this situation is? Well, let's go back over and I'll tell you what I think I'd do here. First, his secondary is the battalion's backup. That one's easy, we can see it on his back. Second, we see him try to jump around a bit, reload one, and then jump at us, which probably means that he has about 2 more rockets in the clip. And finally, we saw him airstrafing earlier, but he did miss a speed pogo onto the stairs, but I mean, hey, everyone screws up jumps every now and then. I think we should play it safe. So, in total, we've got a battalion's backup Trolldier with 2 rockets left in his clip who is decent at jumping at the very least. Knowing this, I would start by backing up slightly and taking a shot at him. If I hit the shot, great. I'm using loose cannon and he's not wearing man treads, so it'll throw him way off and make it almost impossible for him to garden me. Thing is, I'm not super great at demo, so what happens if I miss? Well, I'd follow up by juking forward underneath him. Again, he's not wearing man treads, so it's unlikely that he'd be able to follow me. Once that happens, I'll punish by double donking him, and he probably won't die since he's using the backup, but there's a good chance he'll just fuck off and give me a chance to reset. Example 2, let's take a look at this guy, and again, you get a little bit of time to watch it. Okay, so how should you approach this one? Well, the right answer here is to do pretty much anything movement-based. First of all, he's wearing man treads, so air shots probably aren't the best play.
Yeah.
Oh,
Secondly, we know he has
rocket boots.
Yes, and he tied his shoes. You can see.
Rocket boots! Rocket man!
3 shots in his clip because he wasn't reloading beforehand and used 1 rocket to jump at us. And finally, when we saw him jumping earlier, he was holding W, and that means it's very unlikely that he'd be able to follow you if you just strafed from side to side. So in this situation, I would probably just jump forward into the side underneath him and then shoot him when he lands. It's pretty straightforward. Example 3, same deal. Watch first and then let's talk.
1, 2,
4.
3. Oh shit. You're
Okay,
fucked.
yeah, this isn't good. There is a way out, though. Let's look at the big 3. First of all, he's wearing man treads and is coming at us really quick. Air shots are out of the question. Second of all, he's good at jumping. We saw him garden someone earlier, and he just hit a speed pogo, and he's strafing hard around the corner. If you back up, he will follow you, and you are royally fucked. But the last thing in the big 3 here is our ace in the hole. How many rockets does this guy have in his clip? None. How do we know? Well, we heard 3 rocket jumper sounds, immediately followed by him strafing around the tower hard
heard 4.
and pogoing off the tower. This means that he probably did the stair slide jump from red side, which takes 3 rockets, pogoed off the tower, which is 4, and now has a whopping 0 rockets left. Wherever.
Wait, you. It only has 4 shots in it?
Yeah. It's base. All rocket ones only have 4.
Oh, I thought it was 5 for some reason.
Maybe. But they maybe had 5 at like the alpha.
Where he ends up, he's gonna be stuck for a little bit. With that in mind, we're gonna need to juke him out. Once again, I'd start by acting like I'm gonna back up, and then move back out at the last second. At this point, he has no rockets left to escape, making our punish a really easy one. Another potential solution would be to just pull a wild card out of our ass and jump off the battlements. It's entirely possible that he'd be able to follow us, but it's probably something that he wasn't expecting, and he might miss. If he lands next to us, we have an easy punish, and if he lands on the battlements, he is now stuck between the enemy spawn and a sniper charging up a shot. Either way, he's probably fucked. Example 4, last one, I swear. Take a look.
B-hop.
Yeah, it was B-hop.
Okay, so what do you do here? Well, look at the big 3. He's using a damage-dealing secondary of some kind. We can tell because there's no boots or banners or backpacks on him. Second, he has 3 rockets in his clip. And third, he can B-hop. That third one, that's the important one. Our first priority here is that we need to stay out of his melee range at all costs until we know for sure that he screwed up the B-hop. Luckily, we're playing Scout, so that's not a huge problem. We know he's not wearing man treads, so knockback is at play, and we know he has a few more rockets left, so he might try for something cheeky. Knowing this, our second priority should be our gun. Shoot him in the goddamn face until he dies. Burst him down. He might try to, like, shotgun you or something once he realizes he's not going to get a garden, but once that happens, it's probably too late for him. Just keep shooting his ass. Those are just a few examples, but hopefully this whole section gave you a good idea of the mental steps that you should be taking when fighting Trollders. The worst thing that you can do against us is panic, because that means you'll probably just back up, and that's exactly what we want. No, really, please back up. It makes for really good background footage. Well, that's about it then, isn't it? I don't really have that much else to talk about when it comes to countering Trolldier. At this point, I've done a metric shitload of educational Trolldier content, and while I'm still really interested in the subclass, I'm starting to run dry on stuff that I can talk about with this format. I've still yet to cover Trolldier duels, which are a little stupid, but still have some good talking points, and I'd like to talk about different primaries at some point, notably the airstrike. But outside of that, I really don't have all that much, so if you have any other ideas or specific things that you just really want me to talk about, I'm all ears. Let me know in the comments or on Twitter or whatever. I don't care where. I'm going to be watching all of them. Okay, yeah, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Now we know how to count him. Wiping.
Yep.
Just shoot him.
Just shoot him. Shoot him.
Using the man tricks, they ain't gonna work as well.
Like in Overwatch. Just shoot him! Shoot him! It's not hard! Just shoot the fucker!
Shoot!
Shoot him! Shoot him! Alright. Goodbye!
Bye.